QA1 E-body upper control arm installed in a Challenger. So I've had to play around a lot with the bushings to get this to work properly, but I have it working pretty good now. You can see one finger goes up and down. The issue when I first put these in was where the bushings seemed to be too tight in the body cavity where they fit in, and the bushings were sticking in place when you move the arm. So in other words, the arm was rotating around the entire bushing, and they're not supposed to work like that. They should tighten up on a center sleeve, and then the whole bushing rotates around the center sleeve. But these bushings, the outside faces are just kind of squared off, and they really need to have a crown on the outside edges of the bushings, both sides, left and right, of the two bushings. Main problem is because if you need to offset this inside here, like I have it now, so the back bushing is all the way towards the engine, and the front bushing is all the way towards the fender. So the arm is actually cocked, right? So I don't know if that's where it would end up needing to be. Once I do the alignment, we'll see, but I wanted to make sure the bushing would rotate properly at the extremes of the adjusters. At the extremes of the two adjusters, the bushings drag on the body. If you put it in center and you don't have to have any offset front to back on the bushings, then it seemed to be okay. But as soon as you offset the bushings, I mean either this one in or out or this one in, or it doesn't matter which direction, so the arm is crooked either backward or to the front, either direction, then the bushings are really tight on the body, and the bushings don't rotate properly. So you can see here, the bushing, it's rotating real nice. So what I did is I made this bushing, the outside two bushings, this one and this one, I turned them down on my lathe a little bit smaller by about 40 thousandths. You can see it's a little bit narrower, the front bushing versus the back bushing. And that gave it some room, so when I have it cocked, when the arm is in there cocked a little bit, it'll be clear. Also greasing, I found originally these actual grease fittings were like, I don't know, my non-professional opinion, they seem to be useless. If you pumped grease in there, or tried to pump grease in there, it would actually jack the two bushings outward, causing them to seize even more in the body cavity. So I don't know how you're supposed to use these to get grease through there, because there's no, in the bushing, there's no groove or anything for the grease to flow through, which I was kind of surprised. I thought somebody would have figured out to be able to get the bushing grease, there should be a channel or some way for it to flow through there. But these are just standard bushings, so they're sealed off. You could put all the grease you want in here. When you take it apart, that everything's bone dry. The grease never goes on the shaft, and this is super hard to turn, and it doesn't. If you just put it together dry, try pumping grease in there a little bit and see if it loosens it. Nah, it doesn't do nothing. So I cut a groove in the bushing on the inside diameter of the bushing with my Dremel tool to make a little channel on each bushing, like a spiraled channel for the grease to follow, and then it also can come out the front and back of the bushing. So down the road, I can put a pump or two of grease in here once a year and be done. This car doesn't just I don't drive it much, but the exhaust manifolds are right here. So this area where the bushings are, I don't know how hot it gets, but I would imagine they get pretty hot because the exhaust is right here. So this whole area right in here probably gets hot enough to melt the grease out. Now, I suppose they want you to use some kind of special high, te high temperature grease. I don't know. The instructions don't tell you this. Uh, and I don't know if the problem, or not the problem, but the concern I had is if you put this thing together and 2 years down the road, squeak, squeak, like my old bushings, then here we go, tearing it all apart again. So I figured I'd just try that, and if the bushings don't last, uh, it's not a high, I don't drive this car much, but maybe 100 miles a year, so I'm sure the bushings will last. And put a little grease in there. The grease will come out between the bushing and the body front. They have the little channel cut through there, so it'll come through both sides, and you can see it kind of oozes out right here when if I were to pump grease in there, you can see it actually ooze out between the body and the rubber bushing, which that channel helped do that. So that's how I got the grease to get in there. Same thing over here. You can see it kind of oozed out on this bushing here on the right. So so you can see this was actually, you can see it squirted out right there. And like I said, one finger to push it all down, no problem. QA1 upper control arm Mopar B&E body.